Welcome to the Anti-Noise Experience podcast, Endurance, Noise, and Random Musings. It is Tuesday, October 6, 2020. Sadly, to the news today was about Eddie Van Halen passing away from throat cancer. Rest in peace, Eddie. Grew up in the 70s here in California, so Van Halen is always on my radar, even though I was more of an alternative rock, indie, hip-hop, rap kind of guy. I owned a record store from 1986 to 2006. But Van Halen, always appreciated him, always was entertaining. I remember working at a record store before I owned my store, World Records, and reading all of the rock magazines, and reading about Van Halen was always very entertaining and very interesting. So unfortunate to see his passing. Further on to endurance news of the week. California, of course, is still shut down with COVID, our schools and whatnot. Here in Kern County, where I live, Bakersfield, Kern County, we actually had a meeting the other day where parents and athletes came to the school board talking about how they really want to get sports and other activities back. And I really hope that we will have school come back, because I think it's very important, and the right precautions can be done. Speaking of precautions, since California we're not competing, the good teams are putting together travel squads because it is summertime rules. In fact, where I coach my Bakersfield Distance Project, we meet at Beach Park. It's where I used to meet the Bakersfield Drillers for a number of years, from 2006 to 2009. And the kids themselves are coming out and training on their own. They're not allowed to have their coaches show up. But you can have a club team, and so some of the good programs are doing club team, and they are traveling out of state. And this past weekend, they went to Arizona, and of course, Newberry Park and Great Oak went to that meet. There's a really good documentary that's coming out every week on Sundays with Prep Cal Track and high definition runners following the 2019 season. And it's amazing. I didn't realize how much good stuff is on YouTube when it comes to races. I just watched this Clovis Invite, and it was amazing, all the camera work. NBC Sports could learn something or two from how well they covered just a high school races. So anyways, at this race, it was in Arizona. It was hot. It was called the Desert Twilight Festival. Last Friday, six-time defending Division I state champ Great Oak lost 6 of its top 7 a year ago, but they still pulled off pretty good running. But Newberry Park itself was the best at it. Of course, we had the great past weekend with the London Marathon. Cheptegei finally showing that he is vulnerable. Came in 8th, but Sara came on like gangbusters in the end of the race and got 2nd place. And of course, as soon as she gets 2nd place, and then the shoe controversy comes out, and Jonathan Galt from Let's Run says, FYI, I reached out to Sara Hall's agent, Josh Cox, to ask what shoes she was wearing in London today, as I saw some questions on the subject. And Cox says, for the sake of Sara's integrity, for that of the London Marathon organizers and the team at ASICS, I will say that all ASICS shoes used in competition met World Athletic specifications. Sara's shoes were submitted and approved by World Athletics earlier this week. As is with all women major policy, the shoes of the top 3 finishers will be collected for examination by World Athletics. Today we celebrate personal bests and runner-up finish at London Marathon. Yeah, it's just, I think we just need to do something with these shoes. Just say, okay, it is what it is. I always compare it to speed skating. Speed skating for years was very similar, always the same. And then they came out with that clapper skate. I don't know the real name of it. And the records all got broken. And now it's just what it is. But obviously those last couple hundred yards where she ran down the world champion and took 2nd in London, the shoes were not the cure. Of course, they would say, well, the shoes saved her legs till the end. But it's kind of also, if everyone's getting the shoes, it's kind of like in cycling. If everyone has the same equipment, then it comes down to the athletes. But then, I mentioned cycling, then you start talking about performance-enhancing drugs. It's interesting how team sports have been able to keep out of the performance-enhancing drug business as much as others, but that's because they have strong player unions, because they're using them just as much as track and field and cycling. But track and field and cycling neither have players' unions, and so you're constantly seeing stuff like this in the news. So I think it's awesome, and hopefully someday we'll get this shoe controversy fixed. And so going on to some other stuff, some different types of racing, of course. Sabrina Stanley sets new record, supported record on Nolan's 14 fastest time in 48:49. Previous was Megan Hicks, 50:32 in 2020. And, of course, Megan Hicks actually is one of the co-founders. I Run Far. 48 hours. Speaking of 48 hours, of course, we had this weekend, after 3 days at the fair, the USA women's record was broken by Marissa, and Bob Hearn got his record too. So a big weekend for long distance running events. These FKTs, fastest known time, Nolan's 14, are the 14,000 peaks in Colorado. And pretty cool to see all this kind of stuff going on. Then, the 48 hours is a theme. Yesterday, of course, this was posted, 48 hours for the next great running spectacle of 2020. And that will be tomorrow, Wednesday. And I think it's going to be in the afternoon. I saw something about it being around 3 o'clock. That might be Eastern time. You're going to have Joshua Cheptegei, who broke the 5K record. That's been around for 16 years. He's going after this 10,000 meter record, and it will be live on YouTube. And I'm definitely going to check that out. They're also going to have a 5,000 women's attempt. Speaking of kind of jumping around here a little bit. Speaking of cross country, Hanson Project writes, please be supportive. Some of the most destructive parental behaviors I witnessed at cross-country meets. Disappointed with your child's race, and you justify it by saying, I'm upset for them, not at them. Cheering against a teammate to prove your child's position on the team. And those are definitely things, it's kind of all sports. You have starting lineups and that type of thing. But the beautiful thing about cross-country and track often is, cross-country we'll go with because, you got 7 on the team, 5 score, is that it basically, you usually take your best, fastest athletes. In a lot of other sports, it's kind of like who determines who's good in baseball, basketball, football. There are some stats, but then it comes down to the coach's decision, where at least in cross-country, it comes down to a time trial. That's why I walked off the baseball field my sophomore year in high school and never looked back, because I was tired of sitting on the bench, and I thought, in track, I win the race or I place, I get to go on to the next meet. And so I never really had that problem here in Kern County. We don't have very strong teams. There's a few like McFarland, obviously, that won its state titles, and Stockdale, where Blake Haney went. But a lot of teams, it was hard to find 7 guys for your varsity. So a lot of the kids, you could find good 4, but you need 5. So, but yeah, parents, it's one of the reasons I don't coach high school anymore. Then speaking of some more sportsmanship, like London Marathon champion Shura Kitada this morning on taking the title from Kipchoge. Kipchoge is the king of us. Even if we beat him today and tomorrow, he's the king of athletics. Very nice of him to say. Very, very good champion of the London Marathon this year. And then, of course, like I was saying, tomorrow on Wednesday, Gidey speaking about the record of 14:11 for the women in the 5,000. She says, I think I will break the record. For 6 years, I have aimed for this world record. I prepared very hard for Wednesday. I remember watching Gidey run in the World Championships, and she was pretty amazing, phenomenal athlete. So it should be fun to watch her in that race. And then, of course, Joshua is awesome. He's just a youngster from Uganda, and he says about the 10,000 world record of 26:17:53, which he will attack on Wednesday in Valencia. It is hard, but of course I am also harder. Yeah, goal pace in that race. They say they're going to go 3:55 for the 1,500, 7:52 for the 3,000, and unbelievable 13:05 for the 5K, which you got to do. But there's so few Americans can even go under 13:05. I think there's like 8 that have gotten under 13 flat. Wow. So it should be good. Kameli is the one who's going to bring him in through the 5K, and he ran 12:51 in Monaco behind Cheptegei and has done 26:58 in the past. So should be exciting to watch. And then, of course, someone commented, Paul Anderson tweeted, he says, whatever the over-under on how many seconds Cheptegei breaks the world record is, hammer the over. This dude just proclaimed that he is harder than a 26:17 10K. That's the most gangster thing I've ever heard a distance runner say. Yeah, it harkens back the old Prefontaine days. So very impressive, very fun. Desi Linden, talking about what I often say often. She says, make running a healthy habit like brushing your teeth. You don't think twice about it. You just do it every day, because if you don't, you feel disgusting. And let's create a routine and build a habit. And as I say all the time, that's what's very important to do. People just don't realize the benefit and value to doing that kind of thing. Let me see here. Why am I missing something? This is, if you're looking here, this is my anti-noise website. It started off as my record store website ages ago, and of course now that's Mushu barking in the background. But I've been putting running related things on here. I often put this from my Twitter feed, and I throw them up on here, show notes and stuff like that. And there's also all kinds of other information on this page. I had to refresh this because I didn't refresh it with some more interesting stuff. Ryan Hall, of course, still getting my voice back after 19 laps of screaming for Sara Hall yesterday. I'll never forget watching Sara tear around that last bend with fire in her eyes and pain on her face. Very proud, happy husband there. And then Dave Monte says, new record for Hall. Reminds us that Sara Hall's 2:22:01 at London Marathon is pending USA Track and Field national record for all women's race. The previous was 2:23:08, which happened with Emily Sisson back in 2019. So Dina Castor still holds the absolute record of 2:19:36, but that was with a mixed field. Still amazing that the American record's 2:19 and the world record's 2:14. Man, but Sara, awesome saying it. There is Joshua with his new shoes he'll be wearing in his 10K attempt, the Gold Knight Dragonflies, ahead of his 10K world record attempt. Reminiscent of Michael Johnson back in the 96 Olympics in his gold shoes in a way. Let's Run, of course, has a great article you should check out about what's going on with the race tomorrow. And then last thing that was very cool. I saw this the other day, but I wasn't sure if they were joking or whatnot. Jonathan Gold says, very fun to see, and yes, this will be real, live, and in person. Nothing virtual about it. They're going to have a Michigan Pro Ekiden hosted by Hanson Distance Project on October 21st. It's going to be Atlantic Track Club, Hanson Distance Project, Roots Running, Bowerman Track Club, Team Boulder, Minnesota Distance Elite, and NAS Elite are all going to be competing in Ekiden. In Ekiden, there's this amazing thing in Japan, these distance relay races with like up to 10 athletes where they're competing against each other, corporations. And so you've got athletes in Japan who basically work and their job is running, and they compete in these things. They also have them in high school and college. And this one will be co-ed teams. It'll have legs of 10K, 6K, 5K, 10K, 6K, 5K, time to fly. Of course, that is the motto of Hoka NAS Elite. So, be really looking forward to watching that. They don't really have it. It's a similar thing here in California. They have the Tahoe Relay, and Lake Tahoe is 72 miles around, and there's teams of 6 or 7 athletes. They do this race every year, usually in June, and of distances of like 10K to half marathon. And it's been going along for 40 to 50 years. It's a pretty fun event. We took the Bakersfield Drillers there when my son was a junior, and he got the honor of running the 13-mile race and did really, really well. But he was so funny because he was so excited because he started the race like in California and finished in Nevada. So it was very, very fun. So this whole concept is pretty cool. And it'd be really kind of nice if we kind of get this Ekidens here in America, maybe make it into something a little bit more and bigger and popular, because one thing's nice about one of the silver linings of COVID is people are trying different and unique things, and I think that's good for the sport and the growth of the sport. So tomorrow is the big 10K, 5K world record attempts, and then we also have coming up the half marathon world championships in Poland, and then Valencia is also putting on a half marathon in October. So October should be pretty good, and hopefully we'll have some October surprises that are good for a change.